Hey, fur friends, and welcome back to our Docs Design Master Your Brand webinar series. I am so stoked for this month's speaker, and I would be shocked if you have never heard of her or her Pawesome brand. Jeannie North is an entrepreneur, designer, and founder and CEO of Ripley and Rue, a national clothing brand specializing in dog goods for obsessed dog parents. Ripley and Rue products are artisan made with love in their shop based in Omaha, Nebraska. You may be one of the 70, yes, 70,000 people who follow them on Instagram, or have seen their wildly creative collections across hundreds of famous Instagram doodles. You may have even attended their widely popular International Doodle Day, which they personally made an international holiday. Or you may have read about them in Better Homes and Gardens magazine, The Chive, or BuzzFeed, just to name a few. Needless to say, Jeannie knows how to master her brand, and today we are going to dive into how she grew Ripley and Rue to be what it is today. Let's get started. Hey, Jeannie, thank you so much for chatting with us today. We have been following your brand pretty much since we entered the pet space, and it was one of the ones that instantly caught our eye. I think like every Instagram doodle I follow is wearing your bandana. And you really have the whole package. I mean, your office is absolutely adorable. Your products are so cute. Everything on social media is just really put together. However, we know from experience that it takes a second to kind of get to that level of mastering your brand. So I like to start these interviews at the start. We all have to start with our business dream somewhere, and I know you didn't immediately start with your beautiful office with employees. So can you kind of give us a brief overview of how you got into the pet space and kind of the journey to how you got to where you're at?
Yeah, absolutely. And first of all, thank you for having me on the show. I remember you reaching out to me. It seems like it was a year ago on maybe Facebook, saying that you liked our brand. And I was really honored at the time. I'm always flattered when people say that just because I put so much work into it. So thank you so much. But yeah, it's been this will be coming up on our 4-year anniversary. I started in spring of 2016 is when I first had the idea for my little pet business. And at the time, I was actually doing freelance design and development. My background is design, and then I went to higher education for development. So I was developing apps at the time. And actually, one was dog related, which is really fun. But yeah, I was kind of getting burnt out from doing that and freelance. And I decided to pick up sewing as a hobby because I heard it was very meditative and it's kind of a lost art, not a whole lot of people know how to sew anymore. And of course, I immediately started sewing dog bandanas because I had, my 2 little dogs that were still pretty young at the time. And I just wanted to sew some accessories for them that I thought was cute because at the time, I didn't really see any accessories that screamed that I loved or was my personal style. So I picked up some fabrics that I loved and started sewing those. And my friends and family started liking them as well and asking if they could have some and later buy some. And then I started with Etsy. I had previous experience with Etsy before, but I was only on there for a short couple of months because my favorite thing to do is design websites. So I knew that's so much more fun. So that whole process of creating that was probably my favorite part. And the designing of the bandanas and the designs on the bandanas actually came a little bit later. I was an early adopter of a Cricut just because I love any art form or creative craft thing that I can use and express myself with is, one of my favorite things to do. So that's kind of how I started.
I love that. And I love that you have a background in design. I knew immediately when I saw your brand, I was like, she gets it. She knows what she's doing. So I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, thank you. And then, from there, my first Christmas. So August is when I officially launched my .com. And then our first Christmas, I was so overwhelmed with the orders that we had. My main source of marketing was Instagram. And I was actually really new to Instagram. Aside from a personal one that I posted, very rarely on, the Instagram dog community was so new to me. And I had a lot of fun figuring that out and growing from there. But the Instagram community, immediately loved, the things I was putting out. So after my first Christmas, I actually had to hire a sewing person because I could no longer keep up with what I was doing. So that was a fun stepping stone into the next year of 2017. So yeah, and then we started adding human accessories. At the time, I didn't see, like, for example, the dog mom hat you're wearing.
Yep.
I
Yep.
couldn't find any dog mom shirts at the time. I saw like fur mama and fur mom, and I was like, yeah, I want one that says dog mom. But I searched for them and I couldn't find anything, so I made one, and now dog mom is just a common household.
Yeah, you were like
So,
one of the first people to get in on that because
yeah,
now
like,
everyone's got dog mom stuff.
yes. So yeah, that's been a really, really fun to kind of pioneer that too. I can't say I don't know if I'm the very first one. I feel like I was, but who knows? I'm sure there could have been some on Etsy or something too. So
Yes, I love it.
yeah.
I love all the stuff you guys put out. It's always so creative and I just love it. Clearly, I'm wearing the hat, you guys, if you want to check it out, dog mom hat. I had to represent Ripley and Rue today.
Yeah, I love that you're wearing that. That's great.
Awesome. So today I really want to focus on creativity and for a product company like yourself, coming up with new ideas and kind of staying fresh and staying relevant. And the most recent thing your company has been doing are these collections. And for those of you who are listening and haven't checked out Ripley and Rue's collections, you need to. They play off popular culture things like To All the Dogs I've Loved Before, or my personal favorite, To List. You could talk a little bit more about how you came up with these ideas and kind of the process behind it and kind of what sparked the idea of playing off popular culture for dog accessories and human accessories.
Yeah, well, definitely. Well, I'm definitely a 90s kid. So Clueless was one of my favorite movies.
Yep.
Um, I mean, even before Mean Girls, Clueless was the movie.
Yep.
But when I first hired my employees, we sat down. This was in October. We sat down, and I really, like, everything I've done up until that point had just been myself. So I really didn't have any extra people like chiming in or doing a whole like brainstorming session. And that was my main goal, was getting other people's input and helping us create something, really unique, something no one else is doing. So yeah, when I hired those girls, I was like, okay, if we could create anything, like, let's think of all the things that we could make that you would love your dog to wear. And so we came up with these ideas, and we watched all the movies. We went through, everything that we could put into these toys and bandanas to create these collections. To All the Dogs, I actually had that shirt. I thought of that shirt the year prior. So I had that shirt on the market for Valentine's Day last year when the movie came out. And so this year I was like, what if we made a whole collection? And then, so of course we had the letter to Peter, and then the two bandanas that were kind of themed the movie. So yeah, so it's a lot of brainstorming sessions. I have my iPhone notes is full of ideas that I don't even think I could even ever get to all the ideas that are in there. And then anytime the girls have an idea too, I write them down in a notebook, and then hopefully we can revisit them at some point. So yeah.
Yeah. Where do you kind of draw inspiration for those ideas? Do you just kind of like watch the world around you, or is a lot of it from movies and popular culture, or what you're seeing in dog trends in the pet industry, or kind of how do you decide like, okay, this is going to do well with my audience and this one isn't?
Yeah, I think it's a trial and error. I try to stay away from anything anyone else is doing specifically in my pet industry. But yeah, I have a lot of accounts that I follow as far as, women's boutiques, designers. My husband is a designer, and he actually drew Dion's hat that's on the print, that is
Okay.
on the Clueless. So he's an illustrator, and then I have illustration. And so we kind of pull those together. But yeah, I guess it's from, everywhere. I take a lot of time brainstorming first and figuring out how I want to execute something. But then other times I just dive right in. So it's kind of a mixture. And yeah, it's definitely a trial and error. We just brought in our toys this year, and I wasn't exactly sure how those would do. But I knew that if we had a lot of fun with it, people would see that and enjoy it too. So yeah, it's doing really well. And
Yeah.
especially I don't know if you saw the Barky.
Yes, I think that's what, isn't this hat part of that collection? It had the Barky tag on it when I got it.
I think we were just sending free stickers to promote the Barky. So
Oh,
that's
yeah.
probably what you got in there.
Love
But no,
it.
the hat isn't. The Barky is a bandana that says Barky,
Okay.
and a purse, like Barbie's purse. And then it has a Barky sticker with it too. So yeah, also 90s. It's the logo of the 90s Barbie, not the current one. So kind of playing off that. But that is probably our most popular toy, is the toy purse right now. So
Love that.
yeah, it's doing great. I'm glad. I feel like a lot of people are either my age or the girls that work for me are in their 20s. I'm in my early 30s. They're in their early 20s. So we kind of have that range of kind of all those ages that we can kind of appeal to. So basically our perfect customer is us. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think what you're doing is really smart, because right now, I mean, we all know that the majority of pet owners in the space are millennials. They are the 90s babies. I'm in my late 20s too, so I am in that same demographic. And when you see something like that that's really nostalgic to you and it's for your dog, it just gets you really excited, and it almost markets itself in a way. And of course, you were super clever with the dog puns with it all. So I think that was really smart, of kind of knowing your base and knowing what would speak to them, which I think is
yeah,
really important.
exactly. And I know in some marketing fields, people hate puns, but in the dog world, you got to roll with it, you know.
Yeah, that was a dog
There's
pun right there. Yeah. Yeah,
so many.
definitely. People love the
Yeah.
dog puns. Awesome. Well, Jeannie, it's quite apparent that you have a background in design. It's one of the things that to come up, with these wildly creative ideas, but it's another thing to execute on them. So I think one issue that I see a lot with our clients, or just in the pet space, is that design kind of falls to the wayside. People will have these ideas, but they're not executed to a level that they should be. So I think there's a ton of solo entrepreneurs out there that are kind of doing it all themselves. And so branding and design is often the first thing that falls off the plate, when in reality, that's really one of the strongest selling points for a brand. So I know you have a bit of an edge being a designer yourself and having your husband be an illustrator, but for pet businesses who are listening, I know there's a ton of accessory businesses that follow us that are kind of doing it themselves. What is the advice to them to successfully execute an idea in terms of design?
Yeah, well, it's funny you bring that up, because I think that's totally true. It does fall to the wayside, and I can speak to that because the first 3 years I was doing everything as well, and design almost came last, which is sad because I was a designer. I had so many orders open, I didn't have time to do any of the design. So if I look back on my feed, I almost cringe, because it was not, it's like, okay, I'm a designer, but then people see that I'm not designing well as I should, or I just try to get things out as quickly as I could, because I was just kind of grasping for air and couldn't do everything at the same time. So I totally understand exactly how it is. Now that I have some extra hands, I can concentrate. Most of my job now is concentrating on design, photography, and the things that I should have been concentrating on way back. So I guess the biggest thing is, if you have the funds to do so, hire help. Don't try to do, it's great if you're just starting out and you're trying to do things on your own. You don't want to, hire a designer and spend thousands of dollars on something that you for sure you're not sure it's going to work. So that's fine. You can try it yourself for a while. But if you're to the point where you're consistent in your sales, and you can afford a little bit of money to put aside to hiring extra help, I would definitely do so. And maybe somebody that is excited to be in that industry as well and can see your vision and, maybe even break you a little deal or want to do something for their portfolio. I think that's probably the greatest thing too. I've had some photographers in the past that did things for their for their portfolio for me, and that was just a great way to have a partnership with those people. Second, if you can hire people, if you like the design, if you can hire people to do the day-to-day things, and let you concentrate on the design, that's also great too. I think one of the things that I probably should have done is hired someone earlier even than I did. As far as I know, I did hire a sewer right away, but It wasn't until, the year after I probably should have hired an assistant or someone else to take care of a lot of the admin and customer service things that I was being pulled away to work on design. So hiring help and, having someone's outside vision too, if you were to hire someone, is always a good thing to help you further your design.
That seems to be a common thread. I've been asking, a lot of these people that we're interviewing, like what's like a tangible tip. And a lot of them are like, just hire people who are better at it than you. Like if you know your strengths, focus on your strengths, because that will help you grow. Because if you are working on all these things and they aren't your strengths, that is noticeable to customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I totally agree. I think you can find a lot of the things maybe you didn't realize that you were good at through things that you're trying, like photography. I had no clue how to do any photography before I started Ripley and Rue. And now it's one of my favorite things to do. Like we have a whole photography studio set up here now. And then I get to have dogs come in, puppies and all these dogs come in for shoots, and it's like one of my favorite things to do. And then the post editing is probably my favorite part too. So
I love that.
Yeah. So I guess, try some things. If you're not great at it, fine, pass it on. And if you really love it, stick with it and get better at it.
Yeah. And then you can find a new hobby.
Yeah.
I love
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, kind of on the note of images and photography and all that, you're clearly a huge player on social media. I think you guys have 70,000 followers on your guys' Instagram.
I think today we're going to hit 80,000.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, crazy. And I like I said, I think quite literally every golden doodle I follow can be spotted wearing one of your guys' bandanas.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it's starting to get to the point where there's so many dog accessory companies out there. So when you were first starting out and kind of first starting to utilize Instagram, what was your plan to stand out, and kind of how have you leveraged your audience that was there in those beginning days to help you continue to grow your following?
Yeah, when I started, there actually wasn't a whole lot of brands. I can actually only think of two, and one was a bigger one, and they were actually using embroidery. And there was another one that was probably closest to me, and they had gone away for a few months. And after I had started, it looked like they reemerged under a different name. It was Bacon Bibs, and they arrived at Clive and Bacon, but they didn't show up until later. A few months later after I had merged. But, those were the only two that I had really seen, aside from a couple on Etsy that, really weren't players in the Instagram game. So, a majority of those two brands that I'm talking about, they were doing specifically names on the bandana, so personalized bandanas. I didn't see a whole lot of the graphic design and, different sayings and stuff. So that was definitely something that I wanted to hone in on and focus on, those different sayings and just pairing my design on bandanas to make them unique. And aside from that, I'm going to be honest, I kind of just winged it because I didn't know exactly. I feel like your brand is always evolving, and I didn't know exactly what products I wanted to. I had an idea, but as I did it, it kind of evolved into the things that I wanted to do. And it's funny because my bandana design, I developed this pattern, and it was actually like canvas straps, and it was my first pattern. And we stuck with that for about a year, and then I moved on to the square bandana, and then now we're at a triangle bandana. So it's kind of fun seeing your product evolve, and you can just see how much like the change is warranted, and it's good because it means that you're growing as a company and growing to what people want and just always perfecting. So I think that's one of the funnest things about that. But
one thing that you also do, well, like I said, I see all these doodles following
yes,
and wearing your guys' bandanas. So you guys do have a brand rep program, correct? So can you talk a little bit? Can you talk a little bit about that and kind of how that's helped you grow your audience? Because I'm assuming that's probably a big part in growing your Instagram following as well.
Yeah, we have quite a few brand reps now. Before I used to only have like 10 a year. But now we have a couple searches a year. It's probably actually time for us to do another one, but we use an online platform called Reversion, and it basically creates a link and a code for them, and then everything is tracked through that app, which is great because I used to do it manually, which took a lot of time. But yeah, no, it pretty works on itself. We have, monthly newsletters that we send and challenges to the brand reps that keeps them really excited, and they get a little extra discount code. But people love just, talking about Ripley and Rue. I get probably 50 inbox messages every day asking if people can be brand reps. And I feel so awful because I know I can't have everyone do it, but yeah, that's been great. My brand reps are wonderful, and they just love it. It doesn't even matter to them the perks. I think they just love sharing their products, and
I love that.
Yeah,
you got to have a loyal following like that. That's like one of the things that we keep talking about with this mastering your brand. It's like really finding that niche following that are just loyal customers, because the more you can find that, the more on their own they're going to post about your product. They're going to tell their friend about it. Like, a dog mom knows another dog mom, and that is just how you get the word out and get your brand to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, some of my brand reps have been with me since day one, which is pretty cool because it was just like a small brand that had, 500 followers, and it's cool that they have stuck with me for so long over these 4 years. So, yeah.
I love that. So, are they mostly doodles then, or is that, I know that's one thing you guys focus on, which I think is really smart. When I had Tori on here, we were talking about, obviously, like, she's a huge lab person. I'm a huge dachshund person. So, like, kind of having your breed.
Funny. I was actually on her podcast 3 years ago, I think. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I love Tori.
She's great. Yeah, I love how this dog mom community that we have here, but I feel like everyone kind of has their breed that they champion. So is that kind of helping too, being like, here are my doodles, Ripley and Rue? I know you guys actually started a whole national holiday around doodles. So is that also kind of helped you kind of get like this loyal doodle mom following?
I think it has, and I actually didn't do it intentionally aside from the doodle day. But I didn't do it intentionally. I think it just happened organically because, my dogs were my models for a long time. So I think that just kind of drew people in, especially the hashtags I was using. And I think it's great even if you were to focus on a brand, because niches are very powerful when it comes to branding and having a business. But, I maybe originally started that way, but now I've been really trying to push other dog breeds too, because of course we love all dogs and our accessories are for all dogs. So if you look at our feed, we have a lot more models now that are, corgis and Goldens and, all sorts of breeds. I actually want to start bringing in some of the rescues that are in town too to photograph. So that's my goal next. But yeah, I guess, we're a doodle family, but we accept all dogs, and our new office dog is Taryn's dog is a Dalmatian. And then, so she's so pretty. And then Kaylee's dogs are little, they're like Shih Tzu mixes. So yeah, we've got the gambit of dogs around.
I love that. And I think something you just said too is a nice, like, tangible tip for people first starting out. Like we kind of mentioned earlier, photography is important, but getting dogs in your photos, I mean, that's what at the end of the day we're all here for. And like, that is what attracts people, seeing cute dogs in your product. And it's as simple as grabbing your dog as the model and getting them in front of the camera to kind of model some of the product.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, dog photos do well. What also does well, a tip is really cute flat lays do well for some reason too. And those are some of my most engaged with photos. So there's a tip, dog photos and flat lays and organic flat lays or lifestyle flat lays look better to people. I've tried like the fun, colorful backgrounds, and I personally like them, but for some reason lifestyle ones do better. So
that's really good to know. Yeah, your whole photography is great. I just love it. And yeah. So Jeannie, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to talk to all our fur friends. I know so many of them admire your brand and your insights. So I want to wrap this up with one more question I ask everyone. So it takes a while to get to the point to where we really feel like we've honed in on our brand. whether that's our visual brand, your brand audience and following. At first, a lot of us are kind of just stumbling along, like you said, kind of just figuring out as we go along. So what is the one piece of advice you wish you knew in the beginning phases? If you could go back to yourself when you were first launching your business, what would be the one thing that you thought would help you grow faster? What would you be like, Jeannie, this is what you need to know?
What would help me grow faster?
Yep.
Probably the extra help. Definitely, I think, but I guess specifically one advice I would tell myself is not to stress because the work will always be there, because I would work around the clock. And honestly, I got to a point where I really wasn't taking care of myself, especially, my mental health, my physical health. So the work will always be there. Don't, kill yourself trying to get the work out. It's great to have hustle, but always take care of yourself first. And then second, hiring extra help or just getting some help, even if it's free help, however you can do it. That will help you grow exponentially, especially like you said, if they have more expertise than you. You can only grow so far within yourself without learning more, educating yourself, going to conferences or even YouTube videos. So educate and hire.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important part that we don't really talk about in a lot of these business interviews is just like taking care of yourself. I know I'm a solopreneur. I mean, I have a team now, but when I was first starting out, same situation. It was like, I got to get this brand done today. When in reality, a lot of the people you're working with, they're in the same boat and they understand that you're human and you need time for yourself. So I think that's a very important tip for everyone in the pet space to take away, because I know there's a lot of us out there that it's just we're a one woman or one man show and it could feel like you have to get everything done right away. But take a lunch break, take a walk out when it's nice out, take a deep breath.
I think if you kind of have that workaholic personality or entrepreneur personality, it always comes first. So you really have to retrain yourself to focus on yourself rather than the work at hand. And I don't think it's something that will ever go away, because it's almost a compulsive or obsessive quality that comes with it. And it's just you, but and even if I wasn't working on Ripley and Rue, it'd be something else that I was obsessing over. But it's definitely just really working on that balance. You don't have to get rid of it, just working on the balance to at least concentrate on yourself sometimes. So
I love that. Okay, well, thanks again, Jeannie, for getting on here. And thanks again for watching along for friends and taking the time out of your day. If all of you are watching, haven't already, make sure to join our free Facebook group. Just search Design Support for Small Businesses, and you'll get instant access to these monthly freebies and interviews and more. So I'm Kayla with Docs Design, and we will see you next month. Thanks again, Jeannie.
Thank you, Kayla.